Hello, everyone. Welcome to the database management, week number 3, uh, for the week of March 29th. I am sharing with you uh, the Blackboard for week number 3, and this is the lecture video. As you can see, all the assignments that are being assigned for this week will be due on April 10th, as also is indicated over here. There is a list of objectives, the course instructional material, and the list of assignments. Here's 1, 2, and a 3. I will go over them each briefly. So what we want to achieve this week is to install a SQL Server in your VirtualBox. I'll speak more about that. And then I also want you to learn about the online resources for utilizing SQL database. And I like you to have a good sense of what a relational database is. And in terms of instructional material, there is a lesson plan here for you. Here's a lecture video from last term, which I kind of kept, but will be replaced with the one I am recording today. Here's the instructional detail for doing the SQL assignment online resource. And then here's the detailed instruction on how to install SQL Server on your virtual machine. And here are other resources that you may want to refer to. I will jump into, well, let's talk about this as long as we're here. So this is the major portion of what we want to achieve this week, and that is to install the SQL Server. Now that you have installed a VirtualBox and installed the operating system inside, it is now time for you to install the SQL Server. All right, so when you log in, let me bring this up over here, and get rid of this guy here. So after you install the SQL Server, I have a couple of additions here, but this is the one you're going to install. You'll have a whole bunch of options that you can use and features. But basically, this is the 12. Here's the SQL Server Management Studio. And this is the main function that we're going to use because this is the main way in which we're going to design, create, implement the database and work with. So this is kind of like what you should see, all right? As you can see, here's a, well, this is the whole SQL Server. But anyway, next week, we'll continue with the installation by adding a AdventureWorks 2012 sample database that we can leverage. And here are some other databases that we're going to create. So anyway, so that's a quick preview of what's going on and what's to come. And then for this SQL online exercise, if you click on it, it gives you a detailed instruction on how to do it, right? So it asks you to go to SQLfiddle.com. You can go there. I think I already have it up here. But basically, you just need to follow the instruction and just give it a try in terms of how to use it. So when you come here, and the purpose of this is for you to kind of get to know your resources. There are many other SQL Online resources you can use, but this one seems to be pretty easy. So here are some reasons why. So here, SQL Fiddle gives you several platforms of database management system that you can leverage. There's MySQL, Oracle, and so forth. But we're going to be using Microsoft SQL Server. I know we're not using 2017, but all the basic elements will be the same, so you can choose this guy. And then You can also write your SQL statements here to build your schema or the tables, and as well as populate them or whatever. And then you can click on this to build them. And then here you can use another pane to retrieve or modify and do the non-creation of the table SQLs. But we're not really there yet, so I'd like you to just use a sample code. So you can just click on this guy here, right here, and then it'll populate all the codes here and there. And this one says create a table called ForgeRock according to these columns and the database types. And then it is also going to insert 3 records into that table for these columns. And basically, you just need to click on the build schema, and it'll build it, and you should see a schema ready. So if this is not working fine, then you should not proceed. Not only now, but also later when you are testing your SQL, your database design. Here, you can use a select statements or any other statements to work with the data. Here, we're simply going to select these 2 columns from the table called ForgeRock, and you can just click on this run SQL. And when you do that, it'll execute them. While this on this side is building a schema, this is actually just running the script. And here you're running the script as well, but there are different types of scripts. And it gives the return at the bottom here. So you ask for these 2 columns, and here is the 2 columns with the corresponding records for that. All right, so so you can just take a screenshot of this and submit. All right. Okay, so let's going back to the here, and then for the Zybook, I think everybody's on board with getting to familiarize themselves with using the Zybook assignments. So I'm assigning a Zybook activities from chapter 2, but be sure to click on this one and do these 1, 2, 4. I need to update this here. Referential is, I think, another one. But anyway, so let's go back. So click on this here, and it'll take you into Zybook, and it'll land at the beginning, right? So you can't really navigate too much. But here I logged in myself here, so you can kind of navigate around. So I'm going to pause and then update that real quick. So I just came back here and updated the referential integrity because that's 2.5. As you can see from here, there's 1, 2, and a 4 and 5. But anyway, so when you come in here, you can start doing these things, all right? But just to kind of give you an idea what this is all about, the section 1 talks about what a relational database is. There are other kinds of database models, but SQL Server is a relational database, meaning that it's going to use tables made up of columns and rows, and those tables are related with one another. Those tables are organized using primary key, and those tables are related with one another using what we call a foreign key. All right, and then referential integrity talks about how we're going to enforce how these are referenced with one another so as to make the data accurate. All right, so those are the 4 things that I'd like you to kind of go through and do and submit. All right, let's go back to the assignment here. I think I covered most of them a little bit. So I'm going to look into the lesson 3. I think I already downloaded it here somewhere. Here we go. So I'm going to follow this, and let me kind of get rid of this to get rid of the clutter, and kind of talk to you about it. So I already mentioned to you the goals for this week. I already mentioned to you about SQL Server. Here you are basically, let's see here. Okay, so it says now you're beginning to follow the book. The previous parts of your MCSA book. Let me see if I can show that to you. So this is the book that I'm talking about when I refer to a textbook. And this is a lab manual book. That's what I mean, all right? So you're beginning to follow that now. with the installation of the SQL Server. But refer to the how to install SQL Server document that I posted in the Blackboard, because there are some typos, and I'll do that for you whenever I see a typo. All right. So let me pause and bring that up. So here's the how to install the SQL Server VirtualBox. Let me bring that up here. So this is the book, and there are some typos here in the textbook that I have corrected here. So you're welcome to follow the textbook in general, but follow this text document here for you to accurately install. There are a couple of things to note here. You do need to create a shared folder, not as a prereq, but eventually you're going to need it. So be sure that you create it. All right. I will post up how to create a share folder separately after this, so that you'll know. Okay, let me make a quick note here. Anyway, so going back here, you are to download the SQL Server 2012 on your host computer. All right, try not to access the internet. There may be a time where you may need to, but in general, accessing the internet is discouraged and is problematic. Accessing the internet, because that's not, server is sort of a secure setting, and the server operating system sort of gives you trouble when you try. It's possible, but and also it's not as fast. So download the SQL Server 2012 using the link that I gave you here. And the reason why this is important is because you want to install the 64-bit edition of ISO. Your server is 64-bit edition, and you also need a 64-bit edition of the SQL Server 2012 to operate accurately. You want to extract the file, and then pass the extracted files from your host computer into the VirtualBox using this share folder. So on my desktop, I have, like here, it's called share folder virtual machine, and when you actually go into it, here is the my VirtualBox here, but as you can see, I have a share folder here, and this is all the stuff that I put it in on my host computer's folder, and whatever I put it in there, it shows up here. If you want to access them, you just want to make sure you copy this onto the desktop of your VirtualBox, and then you can do whatever you want, so it doesn't mess up whatever is in your host computer's share folder. But anyway, so that's what you need to set up. All right, just wanted to show that to you. Let's see. Okay, and then basically just follow through. I think everything should be okay. Oh, here is actually a set up a share folder in VirtualBox, so this is all good, right? And I think it should be all right. I gave you plenty of screenshots and detailed notes on how to follow. Make sure that you follow these instructions. There's some snags if you're wanting to. I try to point them out. There's some issues some people had, so here's some fixes and how it should look like. So when you get to this point, take a screenshot of this and then submit. All right. So you do these steps, not in your lab book. These are not in your lab book. So you may want to do this and make sure that it is working fine. Okay, you can take a screenshot of this as well and submit. Either ones are fine. Okay, I think these are all good. Here's some possible issues that if you run into, then you can look at them. I think I also will upload a FAQ just in case that some people have any issues. but this is a instruction on how to install the SQL Server 2012. I do want to encourage you to make a note of this. It does say, plan for about 2 hours in your textbook or the manual. For some of you, it may take longer than 2 hours, or maybe if you've done something like this before, it may take less. But be sure to do it accurately in one sitting. Try not to do halfway and then kind of come back, next day. Try to make sure that it goes through all the way. So set aside a couple of hours to dedicate on this uninterrupted. All right. So just a quick, I think those are the only thing that I wanted to highlight for you in terms of the goals, assignments. But here are a few notes that I wanted to highlight in terms of the relational model. Is that, as I mentioned to you, the relational database is using a set of tables and leveraging the characteristics of tables and relationship between them. So we'll work on how to create them later, but I wanted you to know a couple of the things. So the table and columns, maybe I'll just bring that up here. So when I sign in, and AdventureWorks, a sample database, here's a lot of tables here that are given for you to play with. So if you right click on it, you can select top 1000 rows. It even writes the script for you nicely, and then it brings up all the data right here, right? So these tables are already created for you, but we'll create them. But they are arranged in such a way, if you look at here, keys, it has a primary key on the business entity ID and a foreign key on the person business business entity ID. So these two keys, although we will learn more about them, are the way in which that we use to arrange a table and establish relationship between the tables that they're associated with, right? So these are the relational components that we use foreign keys for. And these little dot looking here is a primary key to order or sort a given table. There's something to note about null value. Null value is not a zero or blank spaces. Null simply means there is nothing there. There's no data whatsoever. And then it is indicated by using the actual word NULL. I mentioned to you about PK and FK and the referential integrity. And next week, we're going to install the AdventureWorks. All right. And here's a little bit of what we're going to be doing. So I hope that's helpful for you. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it for what I wanted to cover. Let's see. I will post up FAQs for some issues that you might have. Let me see if I can do that right now. So I just uploaded a couple of FAQs for you. Use them if you. Somebody just called, but anyway, wanted to just let you know that I posted up a few FAQs. Use them if you run into any issues. If it's helpful, otherwise, no need to worry about them. But anyway, so this is the week number 3, and the major portion is to install the SQL Server on your virtual machine. Looks like this is going to be a good week in terms of weather, at least. Hope everyone is able to enjoy and do what you need to do. Looking forward to receiving your work. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. All right, take care. Bye.